Hi, welcome to the Paper Snob. This is Tara. I am here going to be working on Tool Time Tuesday for the month of February. This is a collaborative group of YouTubers who are dusting off our older tools and maybe some newer tools all year long. We are going to be working with a sewing machine this month. I believe a few of the hoppers are going to be doing some hand stitching since they don't have a sewing machine. I do own a sewing machine, and I'm viewing this as my challenge to bring out the brand spanking new sewing machine that my husband bought me a year ago. I have not actually used it personally. I usually get really frustrated with a sewing machine. And I was telling my husband about that last spring-ish time frame, and he's like, let's go buy a new sewing machine then. Because my old one was really old. I bought it when my oldest was probably a year and a half old, and he's going to be 30 this summer. So it was pretty old, and it was a cheapy version of that I got at Walmart. It was a Brother machine, but it was very, very cheap. My new machine is a Singer, and it is a heavy-duty Singer. My husband chose this one because he wanted to be able to sew his Jeep seat covers with it and do some other heavy work like sew on his military uniforms and such. So he wanted to make sure that it was heavy duty enough for that and heavy duty enough for me to sew on paper. But I've been too chicken to try it, so here is my chance. So I'm going to be scrapbooking this photo of my baby sister and I. This photo was taken in 2016 in probably early September of that year. I had just had surgery. I was not allowed to drive yet. It was too soon after the surgery for me to drive. My husband had to go TDY, which means temporary duty, for the week, and my sister volunteered to come from Missouri to babysit big sister while she was recuperating and to make sure I stayed off my feet. She may or may not have done a very good job at that because I'm a terrible patient, but she did come out and did all the driving, etc., etc. So this is just a picture of the two of us together. I probably won't tell that story in the journaling, but it was a great time with my baby sister as adults. We haven't gotten to spend a whole lot of time together, and I can tell you that that is different than spending time as a child with your baby sister, because then they're kind of annoying and they get on your nerves and they get into your stuff. And anyway, as an adult, you really enjoy the friendships that you have with your siblings, young or old. So she is one of two sisters that I have, and I love her very much. So I want to scrapbook this picture using this Amy Tangerine Picnic in the Park paper. I'm probably going to bring in some scraps from my scrap bin to do some matting, but I'm going to do some sewing and some fussy cutting, and I'll be back in a little bit. So of course I fussy cut my hearts from the Amy Tangerine paper. I only cut the red, blue, orange, yellow, and a single gray one. I left out the green hearts because I didn't really want green and red on this layout. I am putting quick dry adhesive on the back of the hearts along the edges only, being very careful to not get any adhesive down the center because I'm going to be sewing down the center and I do not want to gum up my needle on my sewing machine. So I'm not as proficient as some with a sewing machine. It's actually been a very long time since I've used a machine at all, much less this brand new machine that I've had for about a year and haven't tried to use it. My husband has used it. He's fixed his uniforms and a couple of other things, but I haven't. I did help my son fix a pair of gloves 9 months or so ago, but as far as using it for personal use, I haven't played much with the machine. Today I had to get out the instruction book and figure out how to thread the bobbin, because this one was a little bit different than my old machine, much easier to thread than my old one. And of course I had to learn a few of the controls on the machine. The only real tip that I know off the top of my head to give anybody who is sewing on paper with a sewing machine is to make sure that you lengthen your stitches a little bit, because if the stitches are too short, it will rip your paper. So that is really the only advice I have. And excuse my kitty, he just thinks that he has to run right across my space at all times. So I'm going to pan my camera over. This is kind of awkward, and I apologize. You're not going to get a great view of it, but this is the only way I had to hold the phone and show the stitching at the same time. You are literally seeing me trying to learn the machine at the same time as I'm recording this video, and I'm going really, really slow on camera because I'm not sure of the machine just yet, and the foot pedal is, you know, a little bit different than mine. Notice I didn't cut my thread in between the rows. I'm not going to do much of that except for right there because it was getting tangled up on top. I'm just going to kind of go up and down the rows like you just saw me do, turning my paper and leaving a little bit excess as I switch. Now, if I was sewing to the edges of my paper, I would probably actually do a reverse stitch at the very, very edge to kind of tack it in place. But because I'm not sewing all the way to the edge and I wanted a cleaner look, I'm not reversing. Again, I'm still learning this machine, and it took me about 3 rows before I finally figured out how it handled. I didn't do any practicing beforehand, so you are seeing me learn in real time. So this final row I was able to do at a much faster pace because I had finally got a hang of how the machine handled, and I was able to just finish it off pretty well. So now I'm gonna go ahead and trim the threads in between each row. I'm gonna leave the top thread dangling on the front of the layout, and on the back side I'm going to actually flip it over and I'm going to tack it down with washi tape on the back. I mentioned in a previous video that I keep a roll of washi tape on my desk for stuff like this, and that's what you see on this dispenser is a roll of washi tape that I know that I won't use up completely on, you know, the fronts of my layouts. I keep it handy to do stuff like this, and this is just to make sure that it doesn't unravel in the page protector or with any moving around. It's may or may not be a needed thing. I'm not real sure, but I didn't want to take any chances of losing those top stitches. I'm ready to go ahead and build my layout, so I'm going to pan my camera back over to the top of my workspace and begin working on the layout. I am going to mat this photo in a floral pattern and red and blue cardstock scraps from my scrap bin. I used the print and cut function on my Silhouette Studio software and cut some floral elements with my Cameo for this layout. I didn't have ephemera that were the right colors, and I just so happened to have a downloaded design already in my software that I used to cut for this layout. So I just took apart my matting because I noticed that there was a little bit of the blue floral peeking at the bottom, and I only intended for it to show on 2 sides of the photo just to give a little tiny pop of color. And then I'm going to add this 3rd layer of matting with this blue that I was surprised to find in my scraps because it matches perfectly with the colors from that Amy Tangerine paper. I'm also going to pop my photo up on some fun foam so that I can tuck some of that ephemera behind my photo. This piece of fun foam didn't have adhesive on one side, so I used my ATG gun to attach it to the photo, but then I used the quick dry to attach it to the layout because I still want to be able to move it around a little bit. You kind of see that I did it there. And now I'm just going to play with this ephemera and try to make sure that I get it where I want. I print and cut several of these, and I print and cut more than I need, but I wasn't sure if I would cut some apart or if I would only use the 3. I pulled this "So Happy" phrase from, it's a Paige Evans collection. I think it was the one from this past fall called Garden Shop. I didn't buy any of the pattern paper from that collection. I only bought the floral embellishments and the phrase thickers. So I am just going to kind of play with this. I wanted to get some of these coppery gold hearts on here, and I'm just kind of playing with where I'm putting them now. I do end up moving them when I glue down off camera a little bit, and I'll talk about that in a second. So I went ahead and I did some gluing off camera. I popped up some of the ephemera on some fun foam, and then I put some of those little metallic hearts in the center of my fussy cut hearts. Here I am also cutting out the journaling that I have already handwritten on a red, orange, and yellow label. This is a set of labels that I printed for free off the internet. I will provide you the link below so that you can get them for yourself. I love to do some journaling on layouts, and this is a cheap and easy way to get labels in just about any color that you can imagine. Going to cut out the little notches on these labels, and then I'm going to glue them to the top right hand side of my photo. I like to stack labels kind of willy-nilly like this. It just kind of makes it fun, and so that's what I'm going to do with the labels. I really wanted to put a second phrase below the main title, but I couldn't decide where I liked it. I also had tucked one of the foam leaves below one of the ephemeras, and I take it off here because I didn't like the way it looked, and I put it back on the sheet to use for another time. I pick up this piece of phrase thickers again, trying to decide where I want it. I thought about moving the title up, and I see that I'm going to rip my ephemera, so I leave it alone, and I put it back again, and so now I'm just going to add some fun foam to one side of my title, and because it was laying funny and I wanted it to be level on the layout. I'm also going to add a couple of more pieces under the edges of these pieces of ephemera. And I think that the word "big smile" is just going to end up right there. I add a piece of fun foam underneath that phrase sticker so that it is also level on my page. Now I have decided that I'm pretty much done. I'm going to cover up my photo and some of the journaling with this packaging because I'm going to put some blue splatters on my layout, and I don't want to get them on my photo. I know that you can do it off, or that you can do it before you put your photo down, but sometimes I like to make sure that I get the placement exactly where I want the splatters, and in this way I ensure I don't get splatters on my photo. So that's all for me for this month for Tool Time Tuesday. I hope that you liked this video. If you did, click the thumbs up button. Make sure that you check out the links below in my description box for all of the other YouTubers who are playing along this month. It is a great group of talented ladies, and there's quite a few of us. There's a set each week that go live. I am going live the 3rd week. I will have everybody listed and the weeks that they're going to be showing up. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.